welcome you here. I'd like to thank Golin very much for being so willing to host this event. E-commerce is a very important topic in Brazil right now, partly because it's growing so fast, and also given the current situation in Brazil, it has even more significance. So thank you once again. I'm going to introduce Gaston, and then he, as our moderator, is going to take over. So Gaston Terrones Dimant leads Golin's corporate practice in New York, providing expertise across various industries. Before joining Golin, he led transactional crisis and corporate reputation programs at Edelman. And before Edelman, he worked for Burson Marsteller. So he's been with all those big players. Public relations graduate from the Universidad Argentina de la Empresa, trading certificate from Buenos Aires Stock Exchange, and a pre-MBA from IAE Business School. So Gaston.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I hand over to you.
I was laughing. I was thinking, like, I really did a certificate in trading from the Buenos Aires Stock Exchange. And it sounds like weird today, but that's where it is. We changed, so maybe there's news. So anyways, thank you all for joining us today. It's very exciting to be hosting this topic, and we always have a lot of conversations with James and the team at the Chamber of the need to like really talk and have more spaces to talk about the Brazilian consumer and the Brazilian consumer market, right? And try to better understand. So I'm very thrilled to be joined with this amazing panelists that are gonna make us smarter about e-commerce in Brazil and all the opportunities that are ahead. There's a lot of statistics, so I don't want to talk a lot, but I mean, very straightforward. It was the total sales was expected to be $37 billion in 2015, but as big as that figure might seem, I think the most interesting part is the opportunity for growth and the exponential growth and the opportunities ahead across sectors and stuff. So I'm very much looking forward to learning with our panelists. Joining us today are Marcio from CotsAdvogados. Marcio is a lawyer who specializes and advises on e-commerce startups and IT companies, and he's also a foreign associate of Cyber Law Studio, that is a New York and California-based law firm. Yes. So very much looking forward to learning all the legal intricacies and taxation issues as it comes to trading goods in and out of Brazil. Also, my colleague Flávia Vigio from Golin, who leads our Latin America operations and spent a long time before Golin with Arcos Dorados, that is McDonald's most successful and largest franchise outside of the US, and they operate all McDonald's restaurants across Latin America, all down from Mexico to Argentina. She was head of communications there. And also by Leonardo Ferreira, who is managing director of Accenture Interactive. And congratulations, you recently sold your own agency firm, AD Dialetto, to Accenture, and now you're part of the Accenture family. So it's very interesting to see a big player such as Accenture moving into the space and bringing you on board. So very much looking forward to learning what the plans are. So with that said, everyone, thank you so much for being here today. Welcome on behalf of Golin and the Interpublic Group of companies. And the three of them are going to walk us through brief presentations on different aspects, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A. Ladies first.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. I gotta say that I'm sorry if I make any mistake in mispronunciation, okay? Because my name is Marcio. I'm a Brazilian lawyer. I don't live here. I've been here for a couple of meetings, and the chamber asked me to give a short presentation about the Brazilian e-commerce market, and it's a pleasure being here. So we're going to go through some slides here, and then, as you said, if you have any question, we'll be glad to answer those questions. Would it be better if I stand, or it doesn't matter?
If, well, then maybe so people can see.
Yeah. So, just a little bit about me. I'm specialized in cyber law. I'm one of the partners of CotsAdvogados. It's a law firm specialized in digital economy based in São Paulo, Brazil. We work close with New York law firm, Cyber Law Studios, and that's it. I used to be the general counsel of a Brazilian IT company for more than 10 years, and that's why I specialize in this whole thing called digital economy. Talking a little bit about Brazil, just some data here about Brazil. You guys gotta understand that our population is of 205 million inhabitants, so nowadays we are the 6th largest economy in the world. Okay, we're not doing that well economically speaking, but we are still one of the biggest economy in the world. And we're going to see today that e-commerce is one of the good things about the Brazilian economy nowadays. 38.8 million smartphone users in Brazil. That makes Brazil the 6th highest worldwide. And 105 million internet users. So half of the population has access to internet nowadays. Okay. And what are the Brazilians doing online? Just to give you some piece of information here. So 89 million Facebook users in Brazil. So if we are talking about 105 million internet users, that means that 89 of those users 89 million are Facebook users. The 64% of internet users use Twitter. We are a country with the second most Google users and country with the second most YouTube users. A lot of people ask me, how come Brazil is the second if China is bigger than Brazil? The thing is that China, they have their own things, right? So they have their own Google, their own YouTube. So that's why Brazil is the second. What are the key opportunities within e-commerce in Brazil? Well, in 2014, the B2C e-commerce sales in Brazil was of $17.8 billion, and the projections for 2019 is that we are going to sell $40.8 billion. So that means that Brazil, as Gaston said, is really growing. The Brazilian e-commerce is really growing in Brazil for different reasons that we are going to discuss here during this morning. Okay? Because it's growing the numbers of internet users, because e-commerce is growing everywhere. Basically, because the market is pretty much more mature. And some other reasons that we can discuss during our talking today. Number of online buyers expected to increase. So now, actually in 2014, there were 33.5 million users, and in 2019, we are expected to have 61.8 million of buyers in Brazil. Here are some numbers regarding sales. Christmas, 1.48 billion in 2014. I know that last year was the best Christmas regarding selling on the internet. Okay. Mother's Day, $378 million. Black Friday, yes, we do have Black Friday in Brazil. $291 million. Brazil leads the Latin American e-commerce market, which is the second fastest growing market in the world. Okay, so some people ask me, what about Mexico? What about Chile? So I gotta tell you guys that Brazil actually is really bigger than those countries regarding e-commerce. Internet retailer ranked the top 500 web merchants in Latin America, and out of 500, 299 were based in Brazil. Okay, so big players are in Brazil. Walmart has an online operation in Brazil. Groupe Casino, which is the French Walmart, they are in Brazil. They have a huge operation. They are one of our clients. They are called Sinova in Brazil. Who else? Carrefour, which is another French company. So just to give you some names here. The most popular countries where Brazilians shop online. Brazilians shop online from the United States and from China. China, because some Brazilians are looking for the price, lower price, right? In the United States, it's because Brazil has a lack of sophisticated products. So when Brazilians want to buy sophisticated products, they might go online and they're going to look for those products because sometimes it's quite hard to find those products down there in Brazil. This is interesting. Amazon doesn't have a physical operation down there in Brazil. Amazon started selling to Brazil online. And in Latin America was the growest market in Amazon compared to any other. So that means that we were 3.7 times faster than Amazon in China, 7 times faster than Amazon in North America, and 8.3 times faster than Amazon in Europe. So it's really a growing market and a really interesting market when it comes to selling products in Brazil or even outside of Brazil. Some foreign companies selling direct to Brazil. How do they do that? Most of the projects, at least the ones that our law firm is being worked on, they go basically the same way. Yeah. So some American company wants to start selling to Brazil. Sometimes they just invest a little bit of money in marketing and they start shipping the goods to Brazil. That's basically what they start doing. Sometimes they just translate the web page into Portuguese so they can reach some Brazilians that might don't understand a little bit of English. And sometimes they start selling through international marketplaces, which is a really good idea. We already have some clients that decided not to sell through marketplaces because now they already have their own operations selling to Brazil. Okay? That's what Amazon did when they started selling to Brazil. Okay? So the reason why I'm here, basically, as I said, I don't live here, is because I'm talking with a lot of American companies that are willing to start selling to Brazil. So Costco, they don't sell to Brazil. AGM don't sell to Brazil. Target doesn't sell to Brazil. So that's why I'm here, so we can understand a little bit better the legal aspect of start selling to Brazil from outside of Brazil without having a physical operation in Brazil. Okay? So that's it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Like Gaston said, my name is Flávia. I work for Golin as well. I'm head of the Miami office, and from there, we work both the South Florida accounts that we have, as well as a lot of Latin America and U.S. business. We have been seeing a lot of growth in that area. As a matter of fact, our Latin American practice has only been in operation for the last 2 years, but it's really been growing a lot, so much so that we had to move to a bigger office in Miami. You're all invited to come visit. It's actually warmer there than here, so that might be a good incentive to come down. Well, I wanted to tell you a little bit of the Brazilian consumer. But first, let me ask you a few questions. How many of you guys are Brazilian or have spent some time in Brazil? Okay, so a little over half of the team. How many of you see Brazil as an area of opportunity for your businesses in the next few years? Right, or else you wouldn't be here, right? Just checking. Well, thank you, because what I'm about to show you is that it really is a big opportunity. Despite all of the challenges that Brazil is going through, and I'm sure you know about all of those, we're going to focus on what the opportunities are, because there are many. Somebody just recently told me, I know this is a quote by somebody who's famous, but I don't remember who was it, because it was just somebody else that said it. Recently to me, don't ever let a recession go to waste. I don't know who said this, but it makes sense, because that generates a lot of opportunities. That is the case of Brazil. I'm going to tell you a little bit of what the Brazilian consumer is like, but the first thing I think is interesting to mention is that the Brazilian consumer is a very sophisticated consumer in their purchasing habits. This is just a little bit of a snapshot of what the growth of the C class, the classe C in Brazil, has been in the last few years. I'm sure you've all read about this, heard about this. This has been one of the big, let's say, accomplishments of the past couple of governments in Brazil. This is what they focused on, and either way, no matter how they managed it, there was a huge number of Brazilians moving from lower socio-economical classes into the class C, which means they have started to gain access to consumer goods that before they could only aspire to. So what happened to this class? This is about one entire Argentina, okay? 30 million people that in the last few years started having access to consumer goods. So they started buying things they did not have. Everything, refrigerators, televisions, cars, started having cable TV at home, going to the movies, going to McDonald's where it was for the first time. Before that, they were going to other places that had brands that were less recognized. They were able to move into an environment where they felt like they were part of a wealthier group of people. I have access to the same brands that these other people have had all their lives, and now I can do that too. So what happened here? This entire class started purchasing a lot, but there are some things that you only purchase once, right? Like a refrigerator. You don't need to purchase the second one next year. Maybe you'll upgrade your refrigerator in a few years, but that is, the sort of thing that you only buy once. So people's behavior, inherent human behaviors, did not change so much. People were interested in having access to the same things that everyone else does. They have the same sort of behavior that everyone else does. But in terms of economic access, that changed because now they had the consumer power. There are a couple of things that are very interesting about the societies in Brazil. So 85% of those 204 million people that Marcio just mentioned live in cities. So the rural population is very low in Brazil nowadays. So you have huge cities. We have over 20 cities in Brazil nowadays that have more than 1 million people. We have a few really big cities like São Paulo with 19 million people. It's the second largest city in the world. We have Rio, which now has, I think it's about 12 million people if you consider the whole metropolitan area. So this is not only a trend, it's also something to consider because there are things that come along with that, such as traffic jams. People having to spend more time getting to and from work, or even moving during the weekend if you want to go to see a movie. If you want, for example, in São Paulo nowadays, I don't know if there's anyone who lives there, Marcio and Leo certainly know about this, you can't just decide on Saturday afternoon that you're going to go to the movies because you just want a ticket. You have to think in advance. Otherwise, it'll be really hard for you to watch the movie that you really want. So there's a lot of people that want access to things, but there's a lot of difficulty sometimes in having access to these things. The economic development also increased the life expectancy. Now in Brazil it's 73.4 years of age. That's much higher than it used to be in the past few years. I talked about a larger consumer base, but the other thing that happened is that products became really, really segmented. So rather than going to the market and choosing between 5 brands of shampoo, you don't only have shampoo, but you have shampoo for curly hair, shampoo for African American hair. You have things that are very specific to that audience. So I'll tell you about when I was at McDonald's, we had the regular menu, but we had a menu that appealed specifically to the Class C. So that's really interesting because it opens a variety of products. You have to invest in development of products, but you also have access to more people if you find the right way to talk to them. And a couple of other things that have changed. New family models in Brazil, this is as common as anywhere else in the world, but it's very established. You have all sorts of families now. You have families with diversity, you have a lot of single moms, you have a lot of single fathers, you have parents with no kids, so you have all sorts of combinations. If you have products that speak to these specific audiences, you have a better way to communicate with those targets. And of course, female empowerment and purchase decisions. You probably all know that women now control about, that's research, control about 80% of the purchasing power in the world. So the female purchasing power in the world is bigger than the US, China, and India combined in terms of dollar amount. So that's really powerful. You have to be able to talk to the female consumer in a way that women will consider your message and not think that this is just a pink credit card, because that's not the way to communicate with women. So understanding all of those segments, yeah, it doesn't work for me at least. Understanding all of those segments actually gives you a lot of leeway with your strategy. So a few things about the new environment after the entry of the Class C into the market. This is a story in Época, a big magazine in Brazil. These are some families that went into the Class C, and then what happened? So some of them had a lot of benefits, and then all of a sudden the economy hit, and they had to make decisions to downgrade their lifestyles a little bit. But instead of not spending anymore, they made choices on how to spend more smartly. So, for example, the friends that used to get together at bars, they're now getting together at somebody's house. If you buy things that are new to your house, you also have the same experience of being with your friends, but you're in an environment that will make it cheaper, but also safer in terms of personal violence. That's also another important thing. So a few things changed in that environment. In terms of product, well, there used to be a little information available about products. Now, and that's what we deal with a lot at Golin, brand reputation is a huge thing. You have to understand that people are talking about your products online all the time. You don't control that voice, but you can try to participate in the conversation. So that's a very important thing. Advertisement has changed a lot from a commanding voice because, maybe you are the only product available. Now there's such a big competition that you have to have a two-way conversation with your client. It's not just, advertising from a one-way channel. We talked about segmentation from a unanimous product to very specific personalization. The more personalized you can do, the better. Brands, of course, from big brands and just consolidated brands. And you were just a big brand and you knew people would come and buy your product. now you really have to engage with your consumers. You have to have a personal relationship. Post sales, you don't just have an 0800 number that you respond to whoever wants to complain about your product. You have to have a real CRM program. You have to understand that you're engaged with your client all the time. The point of sales has changed. It could be just one store. Now it's omni-channel. You have to be available to your client physically, but you also have to be online. You also have to be at the places where they are. You go after the client. And a lot of trends in lifestyle too. From I saw an interesting way to put this recently. From shopping malls to shopping small. So instead of just going to the big shopping malls, you look for what's organic, local. There's a lot of that in Brazil as well. I'll skip this because I know that Val will touch on this one. This presentation I think will be available online,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So you can look at that later if you want. So just to close, a few trends. The Internet of Things is a real thing. So I don't know how many of you follow technology. The CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, just recently, earlier this month, has shown a lot of this. Connection is the thing. All products. I saw this refrigerator, which was really, really cool. It talked to you and to your grocery store. The experience goes beyond the product. You buy a product not because I buy this product not because I want to make a phone call, but because I know that if my phone has a little logo that people recognize, this means it talks something about who you are. The personalization and relationship with brands, this is a big, big thing. Shared economy, this is also very big in Brazil, as we know that in this economy it's hard to make the choices you want. Maybe you want choices that are available to you part-time. You rent that nice bag that you want to go out with your outfit, or you rent a space where you can go with your friends and have a nice dinner. So shared economy is a big thing in Brazil too. Easy access, so finding ways for your clients to purchase your product or service very accessibly, so you have to be available wherever they want, either online or offline. Of course, communication is power. That means people talk about your product, they talk about who you are, and their voice is really powerful. So brands and companies have to understand how to deal with that. And of course, there's a permanent beta status. That means that everything is changing all the time. This is a very, very dynamic environment. Things will continue to change. So when we meet again in 1 year, this will probably be all different. I guess that's it. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Leo. I used to have a digital agency based out of São Paulo, Brazil. And recently, about 6 months ago, 6 months ago, we were acquired by Accenture. Accenture is acquiring a lot of digital agencies around the world. I think we were 9. They started this about 10 years ago, buying analytics companies. And now they're moving into the digital marketing space simply because their clients want to know more about consumers. And we talk to those consumers a lot. So our company used to do e-commerce marketing for about 40% of the e-commerce in Brazil, which sounds beautiful, but in fact, it only takes 2 clients to do that. And this is the first, this is the first message I'd like to convey to you, is that about 65% of the e-commerce market in Brazil runs to 2 companies. That's Group Casino and B2W. B2W is a Brazilian company owned by the same owners of Budweiser. Those 3 guys, right? And B2W is today being challenged by Sinova, the #1 e-commerce website, which is not only one website, it's 4 websites, and they are the largest player in Brazil. Sinova is the 2nd largest player in Brazil, not with 1 website, but 6 websites. And these 10 websites together, they are, I think, now 65 or 68% of the e-commerce market.
And now they are just launching international marketplace. So they're going to start selling products from outside of Brazil.
Sure, yeah. So then But what's interesting is that if you take those two guys combined, right, all of this traffic from the 65% of the Brazilian e-commerce, that equals the traffic on Alibaba.com coming from Brazil. So that shows you a little bit of, it puts things in perspective. As if Alibaba was in Brazil, they'd probably be number one, and they'd probably be twice the size of number two. And then the market would be, would have three strong players representing probably 85 or 90% of the Brazilian market. And the reason for that is that we're talking about big line items for Sinova and B2W, right? So these guys are like Target or Amazon, right? They're selling computers, they're selling high ticket items. You're gonna see that here. And they're not necessarily giving you a lot of the small ticket items, which I'm going to show it to you, but it puts things into perspective as to, okay, so the market is still developing because we're just starting to move into consumer, getting out of consumer goods and going into, getting out of durable goods and going into more of consumer goods with small ticket price, right? So bear with me, but I just wanted you guys to understand a bit of, putting things into perspective. Yes, their market is huge, but the potential for growth is humongous. And I'll explain a little bit more as we go. So, we already explained this, so let's go. Okay, so this puts things into context as to why I think there's huge potential. If you take, let's take United States, UK, and Japan, for example, there's three markets. When you talk about e-commerce inside of the retail market, and you put those into perspective, what you're going to see is that they represent more or less 10 to 12% of retail when you talk about e-commerce in those markets. When you talk about Brazil, you're seeing 4%, right? So just there, it's huge. I mean, the amount of potential that there is. And you'll see why some of this is happening right now. We are the second largest e-commerce in the Americas, followed by the US, of course, and soon to be the fourth in the world, right? Simply because we have more users than France, simply because we have more users. That doesn't mean, it's just the size of, the people, right? But in terms of moving money, we are pretty good at it because Brazilians have a very classy and we are very much attracted to internet, and you saw that in numbers from Facebook. We're not the second largest, country in the world. We're the second largest YouTube, Google, Facebook in the world. We like connecting. That's from our culture. We like doing that. So why are we only 4% of retail? So there's a lack of culture of buying online, right? In Brazil, the way it goes is that you first have a relationship with a bank, then you do online banking. Banking system in Brazil is really advanced. I can send money to your account and you get it in 2 minutes, literally. We almost don't use checks to pay bills. Nobody uses checks to pay bills. Everybody does it online through apps. And we've been doing this for 2 or 3 or 5 years. Something that is not common in other places. So the first thing that we do is we go into banking, and we do online banking. The second thing that we do is we'll buy a service online. And then the third thing that we'll do is we'll buy tickets online. And then the fourth thing that we'll do, we'll buy a product online. And that's basically because we have a fear of online fraud. So we'll go slow, right? So as we go, and as people are becoming part of the economy, they're not straight into going into buying in an e-commerce website, right? They first try all these different things, and then they'll go buy online, okay? Logistics is a challenge. I bought something yesterday, I called a guy in LA, and it's arriving today, here, and I can track where it is. Coming here, I checked on my phone, and it's in Newark, right? That doesn't exist in Brazil. You can't, you don't have that kind of transparency and logistics simply because the market isn't there yet, right? We do have a problem with infrastructure. which comes from our political problem, which leads into our economical problem, right? And this is another thing that I just want to convey. We are in an economical crisis mainly because of our political crisis, that if it doesn't get solved in the near future, the economic problem will not be solved in the near future. So we are in a political crisis that leads to our economic crisis. Is it economic? Yes, of course. 3%. We're 3% deduction in our GDP. We have 1 million people being unemployed every month. That, call it whatever you want. For me, that's a recession. But yeah, it comes from our political problem. So, low satisfaction regarding online buying experience. One of the websites in Brazil that has the most traffic is a website that is not about reviews. It just talks about companies, and if the companies are doing, you can go and complain about the companies. I hate this website, but in any case, you can, any company, anyone that doesn't get their online product will go online to this website and they will write badly about the company, right? So I work for B2W, I work for Cinova. They're all very smart people. They have zero bad intentions. They work their best to get the product on time. But sometimes, most of the time, 82% of the time, because of the lack of infrastructure sometimes of the country, they don't get their products on time, or they don't meet expectations of the clients, right? And again, these clients that are coming online, they have high expectations, right? They want everything tomorrow. They, if you're not very clear to them, right? If you look at call center calls, 80% of call center calls could be answered just by reading the page. And this is what our consumers are like, right? And then they'll go online and they say, okay, so I have a low satisfaction. And we think 85% of this low satisfaction has nothing to do with our retailers, or our customers for that matter, right? It has to do about our logistics, and the logistics and the difficulty of operating in the country. Brazil is not, everyone knows who Jorge Paulo Lemann is. Yeah, he's the owner of AB InBev, Budweiser, and B2W, right? Heinz, Burger King, and the list goes on. So I saw him speak one day, and at a banking event, and this phrase never left my mind. He said, Brazil's not for beginners. If you're an entrepreneur in Brazil, you can be an entrepreneur everywhere in the world. Which I don't think is true. But in any case, Brazil is not for beginners. Tough place to operate because of our, complicated. The opportunity is huge, as you saw, and you see a little bit more. And then low profitability in e-commerce players, and that's true everywhere in the world. Amazon is not breaking a profit; it just broke a profit, and it's not great. It hasn't done ROI. Yet it's valued at more than Walmart, which is the biggest company in the world. So this is a new market, it's a new economy, we're getting used to these things. Nobody has the right answers. People ask me why are the e-commerce why e-commerce in Brazil are not breaking a profit. I have no idea. You need to speak to the owners and to the stakeholders to kind of understand, but it's simply, everyone is trying to understand this new economy and this new market, right? The other day I saw that the largest car company, the largest taxi company in the world owns no cars. Largest hotel chain owns no rooms. That's Airbnb and Uber. And this is the new economy. We are in a new space. So that has something to do with profitability. You can't have the two things. You can't innovate and be profitable at once, right? You got to try things. So this is where I wanted to get, where we're moving, right, from durable goods to consumer products. And this is great news. This is number one category in Brazil is fashion and accessories. Second is personal care, and this is not obviously it's not in dollars, it's not in revenue, but it's in the number of orders that are being shipped. And then we go to household appliances, which is the durable goods. So very good news for us. And then here you give a bit of a context into us going in, to expanding because of marketplaces. So companies are expanding and doing partnerships with companies in order to bring up our, the category of e-commerce. This is very good for the, if you're local and you understand a little bit more of the, how to get in. But then here's where I wanted to get, which is, the millennials and the new generation is just coming in. The other day I went to speak at FAPI, which is a local university, to about 2,000 students. And then, I asked the question, everyone's talking about mobile a lot. Mobile buying, mobile e-commerce. And I'm looking at Google Analytics, which shows me what my customers are doing online, and I don't see a lot of mobile sales, right? So I'm saying there's something wrong either with the press or with my clients, and hopefully it's with the press. And I go into this, room filled with 20-something-year-olds, and I say, guys, how many of you in the last week or in the last month? Let's do the last month. Have actually bought something from your mobile phone. And I don't want to know if you bought cinema tickets. I don't want to know if you bought any kind of services. I want to know if you actually bought something with your mobile phone in the last month. Please raise your hands. So I'm expecting half of the room to raise their hands, right? But not even 5% raise their hands. I go, whoa. These are the guys that use us, right? They're 3 hours a day on their mobile phones, 4 hours a day on their mobile phones. And then I say, okay, let me rephrase the question. In the last week, not in the last month, just in the last week, how many of you bought something offline, but that you researched on your mobile phone? Right? Everyone raises their hands, right? And this is where omni-channel starts coming in. And this addresses the problem with profitability, because if you're only doing things online to be measured online or to be expected to give an ROI online, then you're blinded. And you're blinded because not every investment that you do online will pay off online, they will pay off offline, right? And this is what this chart shows. Because when you look at millennials and the X generation, right, they will browse online, they will buy online, but they don't really cross. Sometimes they just buy online because it's a product that you buy online, and sometimes you research online, but you buy offline. And it depends on the category, right? If you're gonna buy a fridge, definitely you're gonna buy online, because it makes no sense for you to get out of a store with a fridge, and you get better price comparisons online, right? But if you're gonna buy fashion, if you're gonna buy something that you're just browsing, you're gonna buy it offline, and you might look at Instagram and see something that you like and then go buy offline. So this is the new generation, and these guys, I think, will bring retail. I think that in 10 years, 8 years, 7 years, we're gonna be in the same kind of mix as the US, where 12% of our purchases will be done through online because of this generation. And this is it that I have for you guys. Thank you.
So thank you. That was very, very interesting. We will all agree, and I'm sure everyone has a lot of questions. I'm going to start with you, and then I'm going to open it up for everyone. But I think, well, a lot of things. But one that I think is going to be very interesting for a lot of people, especially for those marketplaces that are selling and moving goods internationally. Not only the challenges as it comes to logistics and delivery, as you mentioned, Leo, but also what are some of the things that we need to be thinking when it comes to taxation, customs, and
That's interesting. Regarding taxation, if you sell to Brazil, you don't need to worry about paying any tax in Brazil, because the consumer is going to be the one who's going to be responsible for paying for that. And that's interesting because the tax can go from 40% to 60% of the price, which is a lot of money. But even with that taxation, most of the American products, even with that taxations, they are still competitive compared with the price of the same good down there in Brazil. I've been talking with a lot of American companies. One of the companies that have been talking, they are based in Brooklyn. I don't know why, but a lot of e-commerces here are in Brooklyn, and they sell watches. And we started talking, and then they got interested about selling to Brazil online. And then they asked us to explain the whole legal aspect of selling to Brazil. And we told them that the taxation would be from 40 to 60%. Then they said, okay, so we're going to stop here. You know, it doesn't make sense. My price is going to be too high. So our team down back in Brazil, they made some research, and we compared the same good. And even with the taxation, their final price would be 30 or 40% lower than the price that the Brazilians would pay for the same watch down there in Brazil. The reasons why, we were just discussing that, mainly because you gotta pay taxes to have the watch down there in Brazil. So they also have the same issue, which is taxation. If the watch is down there, probably you have to deal with the whole infrastructure of having a real operation down there in Brazil. So that's the way it is. When it comes to custom, the Brazilian government became a little bit more flexible, because the Brazilians, we were making money, but we didn't get the access to some more sophisticated products, so the government needed to be more flexible, because it doesn't make sense. If you make money, you want to buy things. So every product that's under $300 has a pretty easy way of passing through all the customs procedures. You just gotta use the regular logistic providers like GHL, UPS, FedEx, and that's it.
But do they still pay taxes if they're under 300?
Yeah, they do. They do. Just you don't need to go through like too many procedures to get the product there, because you got to remember that you are importing some products. So in the past it was a little bit more difficult. You got to also understand that from my point of view, at least that's the experience that we have with our clients. Most of the American companies, they start selling to Brazil through international marketplaces. So you don't even need to worry about some of those things that we are talking about here. One of the things that we didn't say is that in Brazil, only 20% of the Brazilians, they have international credit cards. And that might be a problem. Because if I go to your website and I want to buy your product, I gotta have an international credit card. So using one of those marketplaces down there in Brazil, we don't need to worry about it, because they are going to be the ones who are going to collect the money, and then they are going to send the money to you. Another interesting thing about the Brazilian consumer is that we pay in installment, right? So that's another thing that you don't need to worry about if you have a marketplace and doing that for you. We also pay things using what we call boleto.
Just the installment thing is very important, because here there's also installments, right? You could buy stuff. We're talking about on the credit card. You have installments on your credit card, which means that if you have a credit of 60,000, or 40,000, or 20,000, you could do a purchase in a shopping mall of $200, $100, and you could divide that up to like 6 times, as long as you have the credit to do it, or even more. Sometimes 12 times. The other day I saw 15 times on television on your credit card. So that allows people to, without interest, right? Some believe that it's without interest.
Marcio, could you explain a little bit more the concept of the international marketplace?
Yeah.
To make it clear for everybody here.
Sure. So we just finished a project for Sinova, and they're launching their international marketplace. And it works like this. You're going to sign a contract with Sinova, which is one of the companies of the French group called Casino. And they are going to be responsible for doing the marketing for you, because they pretty much understand the Brazilian market. So they are going to doing all the advertisements of your products. to the Brazilian market, they are going to show your products on their website. And once the consumer wants to buy your product, they are going to just click on their website, on their platform, and they're going to be responsible for selling the product. And you are just going to be responsible for shipping the good to the Brazilian consumer. They're going to collect the money, they're going to hold their commission, of course, and they're going to send you the money. That's basically what they do. So you don't need to worry about things like, do the consumer have international credit card? It doesn't matter, because they're going to accept all kinds of credit cards because they're down there in Brazil. Brazilians, they pay a lot using what we call boleto, right? Which is a bank ticket, right? So you can do that if you are selling from the United States, right? So, but in Brazil, all the marketplaces, they already do that. So it might be a good idea at least to start the operation, feel how you do in this whole market. And I gotta tell you something. We are telling here that Brazil is a great opportunity. We are not saying that it's easy. We're just saying that it's a great opportunity.
It's not for beginners.
That's what he said, at least.
Good morning, I'm Carlos Suarez from Edicom, and we provide a platform in Brazil for companies to operate and comply with all the tax laws by sending electronic invoices to the Secretaria da Fazenda, local version of the IRS there. My question is, let's say American players wanting to enter the e-commerce market, right, in Brazil, they will, to what extent will they need to contend with a nota fiscal, given the fact that you have entities like this international marketplace carrying out these intermediary transactions?
You mean selling from the United States?
Yes.
Yeah. They don't need to worry about it at all, because you are not there. You are not a Brazilian entity. So that means that you don't need to worry about it.
So there's an advantage then.
Oh, sure, definitely. That's why, you've seen all those data about the market. The market is growing. It's not that difficult to sell to Brazil. Depending on the kind of good that you are selling, if you are under 300, it's going to be easy to get the product down there. Of course, you're going to struggle with the same things that the Brazilians will struggle with, like logistics and these kind of things. But besides that, that's it.
But, sorry, I'm Philippe Soussan, but what is the key difference in terms of timing? Because I'm assuming that if a company sells from the US using one of your platforms, how long does it take the product to be shipped? And will the customs issue delay a lot because the consumer wants the good in 3 days a week? And then what happens?
No, but that's not. There's a great difference. When I asked about the consumer, you asked her about the. And I also can talk about the legal aspects of it. Consumers are buying from Alibaba. That takes 40 days.
40.
Yeah, 40 days. And they're buying a lot. The other day I was at a beach house from a friend of mine, and the worker that lives in the beach house and serves us, I was talking to him, and I love talking to these people because these are the consumers, right? These are the guys that move the economy, right? We're here in the U.S. and we're privileged, but 90 people that move the economy are these kind of guys. So I'm spending like 20 minutes talking to this guy, and I find out that he researches online, that he buys stuff out of Chinese websites that take about 45 days to get here. I'm talking about clothes. I'm talking about ticket items that are $6 or $7. And he waits 45 days because simply the product is better. And he tells me, he's like, Leo, come here. I go into his room. He shows me the t-shirts that he gets from his son, and look, it's better. It's better quality, and it's cheaper than Seiya or Marisa and he tells me exactly like that. Look, I've compared, right? And we're talking about 7 or 8 times cheaper, right? So there's not a problem of waiting. That problem's
They
not
already
there.
know that.
As long as there's a true benefit, right? I mean, if you're gonna buy a computer, then there's no benefit. I agree with you. Nobody's gonna wait 40 days. But if there's a real benefit when choosing, then.
And legally speaking, if you tell the consumer that it's going to take 40 days, it's okay. It's not a problem at all.
A terrific presentation. Thank you. My name is John Marcunas. I'm a business consultant. This is really a short time to explain all of this. It really raises a lot of questions, I think. One question I have is, could you walk us through the process of the shipping, the logistics? Because you both of you touched on it. And you talked about challenges in terms of logistics and timing. How long things take to get there? What channels, what distribution channels companies are using to push their product to Brazil? How is that done? And what does it cost the e-commerce company here in the U.S. or Europe?
You want to talk a little bit about that? Logistics.
Yeah, I can. I mean,
Process, cost,
if you're
length
sending
of time,
it,
length of customs,
if
etc.
you're sending it from here, and that's where Brazil gets a bit tricky. If you're sending it from here, like the other day I bought shorts, right, swimming on Black Friday here, and I said, I'm going to do an experience, and I'm going to send it, rather than sending it to my brother's house who lives in DC, I sent it to Brazil just to see what happens. So it's $35. And what happens is it leaves the U.S. company, it goes down to Brazil normally. Once it gets to Brazil, inside either FedEx, DHL, or our version of USPS, which
FedEx.
is Correios,
Right.
yeah, the owner of FedEx, they'll do the calculation. Sometimes the product goes unnoticed.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Sometimes the consumers, they don't even pay tax. Just because during the procedure, even Correios or DHL, they didn't calculate the tax.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this.
That's the way it is. Actually, most of the time.
Product comes
That's-
to Brazil, they go to customs first.
Sorry?
Products will arrive in customs. And from customs, it's picked up by DHL or Correios from there?
Not
No, it
necessarily.
doesn't go to
It
customs.
doesn't go to customs.
Under 300, that's the procedure. And DHL, UPS, FedEx, or Correios, they are the ones who would be responsible for calculating the tax.
And they kind of operate as a customs to the country. So you
Right.
pay, right? So it's almost like, of course, if you send something that is of incredible value, then they're gonna. Some American websites, if you log in from Brazil, they already give you the amount of money
They
back.
estimate how much you are going to pay.
Yeah. Okay. Once the item gets there. But then whether you pay or not, that will depend sometimes on luck, or sometimes on sometimes on the value.
And when it's over $300.
Then you always pay.
Then it changes the procedure, and that's a little bit more complicated until you get to 3,000. Higher than that, that's a normal procedure of importing goods. It's totally different. So it depends on the kind of a product that you were selling. If we're talking about watch,
But did your shorts arrive or not?
Yeah. 7 days.
7 days.
7 days. Not bad. So what's the 40K story?
Oh, that's from
That's from
China.
China.
From China.
From Alibaba, because then the ticket item is.
And if you are buying like a product from China and it's not expensive, you're not going to like choose the best
Shipping.
way or the best shipping.
I paid $21 for sure. I could have paid $7, and it would take like 16 or 20 days, right?
It's
I
not
used to-
bad if you know that's going to take
When
that.
the dollar was at 2 or 2.2, now the dollar is at 4. But when it was at 2, I used to buy books from Amazon. Large books, like those beautiful books to give out as gifts. It would be the best gift because they cost about $60 here. You would get to São Paulo, no tax because it's book.
Yeah.
The books have
There are some
exemption,
products that you don't even pay tax.
right? And then I would pay Amazon like $9, $10 per book to get shipped. It'd be a great gift to give, when you're going to someone's house, and because those books cost like $500, right? And I would give out to a total price of $100. Reais.
Thank you. My name is Brendan Hegan. I'm with a company called Boxuka, and we facilitate online retailers, the duties and taxes, shipping options and all that anywhere in the world, or from anywhere in the world into the U.S. And so particularly with Brazil, if we calculate duties and taxes for a particular commodity going in, and it's sending in DDP, so it's prepaid and it should just go right through. Can you comment on corruption these days, and can we say with a reasonable degree of confidence if our calculation is correct based on what the Brazilian tax code is, that if we prepay, the customer's prepaying $150 or whatever it is for the duties and taxes for that shipment, that is going to keep going and there will be no additional money required due to corruption or something like that?
Well, maybe you can go deeper on that one, but there is not that issue in terms of shipping. Corruption does not affect that process in Brazil. What might happen, and I think that's what we've been saying so far, is that sometimes you get lucky with your shipment and it doesn't get stopped and you don't have to pay the taxes, but that has nothing to do with corruption.
Yeah. It's just that volume is too big.
Well, that's postal. Like Correos,
Yes.
the volume is too
Yes.
big and things can slide through. But with DHL and FedEx and UPS, almost everything is going to get charged a duty and tax
Right.
because they have to
You
do
got
that.
it, yeah.
Yes.
Right. So again, that's
You
what we
already
do
know a
is
little
we,
bit about the operation.
with, right.
Yeah.
So our site, our technology, what it does is it facilitates DDP for an online retailer. So the duties and taxes are prepaid. So they're going to be prepaid before they go. There's no, they maybe they'll slide through and not get assessed, or maybe that happens and we don't have to pay it, but the customer's paid it.
Yeah.
The question is, how often does the customer, does the Brazilian consumer have to pay more than than what should be calculated
Zero.
because of corruption or things like
Zero.
that?
That's not an issue in Brazil.
He's not going to pay twice. If you're going through DHL or FedEx, they're just going to pay it once and then it will get there. That's not going to be, at least to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And much.
Okay.
Do you have something different?
Yeah,
Have you run through?
I've heard the horror stories. We were talking before about a $12 can of macaroons that customs wanted $80 to pick up.
Yeah, that's true. If they get it, that's true.
If who gets what?
If you don't pay it before, if you don't pay it here,
You might have to pay that.
you're gonna have to pay there.
Right.
It-
So
Probably,
like,
that's probably more due to a miscalculation than corruption, because $80 will not be fortune to anybody. This is not a situation like in Argentina, for example, where for everything you needed to import, it was really complicated and you had to go through a lot of, shady procedures. This is a can of macaroons, right? And it's probably, I've had to pay tax on paper documents that I've gotten from my office here in the US, but that's because of a miscalculation. That's not corruption.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I'm not even so sure if you can send macaroons to Brazil because it's food allergies. Yeah.
wasn't my macaroons.
Can I just say one sec? Sorry, I was the person who actually gave that example because I was living in Argentina and it was actually macadamia nuts being sent to Argentina and they wanted $80 for a can of macadamia.
Right.
So I was asking him if he knew, and if in Brazil we have the same problem because in Argentina we really,
Argentina
it's
is
so corrupt that they're always going to intercept
No, we are not saying that in
private.
Brazil we don't have corruption.
American
Not an
pride.
issue in Brazil.
it's like on the higher scale.
No, that's
not for
an issue.
macaroons.
Yeah. So I'm business development manager or people head, and we have an online platform for foreign exchange. And I have experience in Brazil with foreign exchange as well. I used to be a sales trader. So I want to understand from you guys what you see in the short and term and also midterm future about the foreign exchange, because in the past year and a half, the Brazilian real decreases valuation to over 76%. So which used to be extremely sometimes much cheaper, and you would have a better value to something that you actually buy from the US, like Amazon, let's say. Now sometimes it doesn't make any sense. People are not traveling abroad to buy all of the clothes they need for a year. They're actually spending that money in national trips in Brazil. So how do you guys see that impacting the e-commerce?
Which e-commerce, the local or the international?
Actually, both, because some stuff is kind of imported, and in the meantime, also the international too, and also the investments, let's say, on e-commerce there.
Yeah, first, I can share with you the experiences that I'm having because I've been here for 2 months. As I said, I don't live here, and I've seen a lot of things. That was a big concern from my point of view at the beginning. But when I was talking with this guy who sells watches, and I said, now it's that we gotta pay $4 for each dollar. He said, oh no, that's not a problem because we sell like expensive watches. So these people, when we talk like high class, they don't care, and it's true. It is true. So it depends on the kind of product that you were selling. There is another thing. Some products you can't find in Brazil, and that's it. So it's not that we're comparing different prices, the price that I'm going to pay in reais or the price that I'm going to pay in dollar. I don't have the product down there. So I don't think that's going to change a lot. So that's the experience I have and the way I see it. And now, economically speaking, I don't think that it's going to be higher, that's my perspective, than 4.5. That's the way I see it. But
I have no idea
that's
where
the way
the dollar is going to go. But one thing for sure is that, those examples are good examples. They are the minority, in my opinion. You're not the majority of, the majority of people would travel a lot to the US. It's cheap to travel. The ticket, the other day I was seeing tickets for $300, right? But then once you get here, there are no hotels for $30. So, and the restaurant is still, you're still gonna eat for $30 or $40, per family at the very best, right? Which then you multiply by 4, that's 3 times the price of eating in Brazil. So, for that family. And I'm excluding class AAA. Okay, you guys, I'm not talking about people who are buying $6,000, $7,000 watches. I'm talking about your normal working family. So it is going to affect, I think, the Brazilians that have competitive products are going to are doing really well at this time. They're doing better than they would have been if the dollar was at 2.2. It is the time to export. It is the time for American companies to go into Brazil buying. It's a great time to invest in real estate in Brazil. Amazing time. You talk about.
And you can use my service.
So the same way, recessions and dollars and exchange rates, they come for the good and the bad.
Thank you.
You can even hire good service in Brazil because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Just that, we have a lot of IT companies that are clients of ours, and they are starting just to sign a lot of contracts with American companies because it's cheaper.
I'll just compliment very quickly because I think there are a couple of things in your question. You were talking about people either buying online or traveling to buy. There's an interesting thing that happens with, I'll say Miami, for example, because that's where I am. There is a market for example, baby showers and baby clothes. So there is a big industry of bringing pregnant women to the U.S. to buy their entire baby clothes and cribs and everything. And then these women go back with bags and bags back home. That has been hurting a lot, and you see less and less people. So although they were able to purchase online from Brazil and come here and make their final selections, that has decreased a lot. The number of people traveling also has decreased a lot. And I don't know if you saw this last week, there was the announcement of the new tax to car rentals and a few other items that people would purchase with their international credit cards, Brazilian credit cards that are accepted internationally. There would be an increase in 25% tax. So, and even the travel itself. So anything you buy for your travel, even the hotel, that will have a 25% increase in tax. So that is something that has hit the tourism market in Brazil last week very, very heavy.
It depends on the kind of good that you were talking about. You know, I don't think there is a recipe. Oh, you know, it's for the exchange rate, so, you know, I'm not going to think about Brazil. It's not like that. You got to understand what's going to be your final price down there, what's the price that people are asking for down there, what's the consumer behavior for that product. Yeah, don't go like, oh, you know, forget about Brazil, because, you know.
Yeah, the discussion is very enlightening. I think it's provide a lot of information. I was not aware about this. I'm a Brazilian speaker for a long time. I was just thinking that 2 years ago, I bought a laptop here in the US. And as you said, there's transparency. I could see the laptop being built in China as it went through the steps. And 2 weeks later, it was my doorstep. So that was a $2,000 item, something like that. So what you're saying then is there's a huge potential for that under $300 market in Brazil, but over 300, then we're dealing with the Brazilian problems.
No.
Infrastructure, lack of...
The infrastructure is the same for under 300 or...
No, but getting this transparency on the product being built and getting there and all that.
No,
I
the
mean,
only thing
it
that's
sounds
going
to
to
me like...
change from 300 to 3,000 is just the procedure to ship. That's it.
No, but keep going.
My thought process is, yes, the market, like people make a mistake in Brazil, looking at this huge population and saying, oh, these are all consumers at all different levels. And what I've seen over the years is that there is a certain public that will be target for this. So are we talking about the potential is in the Class C that's not going to be pressed because of economic issues? Is that the market we're looking at? Because the A class and the B class, they'll keep doing what they're doing, but they'll buy the $3,000 watch. It's not the Class C that's going to buy that. So those keep buying. But the question is, are those growth estimates that you have there realistic? Because it's not for the whole market.
Yeah, well, I can answer to the growth of, you know, the e-commerce market. It's completely realistic. We hit a recession last year. All of the e-commerce websites, they grew. That's not a problem. Especially because the days are small. If you look at the curve, I mean, you're going to reach 10% retail. It's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? From your perspective, you're completely right when you say small items or less than $300. Those are going to move faster because there's a bigger economy for that. Yes, the recession will affect Class A and B. I think AA, and B plus. I think the recession will affect this, you know, this population. It's not that they're going to stop; it's just they're going to buy less. They're going to travel less. They're going to do things less because of their buying power. I mean, their salaries didn't double, but the dollar doubled. So it's as simple as that, right? I mean, they're not going to have that discretionary income to just go to Miami again, right? I mean, they'll go once, they won't go twice as they used to. So yes, they're going to be affected. The notion that they're not going to be affected for me is completely insane. Because they don't have that buying power. That's, you know, they live on credit as well. So it's not, you know, there is going to be that, but there's still so much potential in the Class C just simply because of the steps I went through. These guys they weren't online. Now they're online. They didn't have computers. Now they have computers. They didn't have discretionary income. Now they have discretionary income. So for the small items, there's huge, to the point of Sinova, who is Group Casino from France, and they're building a platform to allow international companies to ship those items to Brazil. And you can ask them, I spoke to Sinova about a month and a half ago about this platform. They're not looking at refrigerators, they're not looking at the big line items. They're looking for, you know, fashion, accessories, things that move, right?
Yeah. The growth of the e-commerce in Brazil is not just related with the economy. A lot more people are buying online, and that's that's just one of the reasons. Just to give you some more information, talking about 2015, right? Our GDP is going to be probably -1. as what people are saying. And the Brazilian e-commerce grew 18%. So it doesn't have anything to do with the economy itself. It's just a movement that's being done by the millennials and for many different reasons.
I think, just to comment on that very quickly, I think we have to look not only at what the big numbers are in terms of the economic trends, but we have to think about the mentality of the people. They will still continue to purchase. We were talking about the profile of the Brazilian consumer. It's changing the way that they are purchasing things, but Brazil is a very active consumer market. People like to purchase things. People like to, make their economy continue to operate and be active. People spend a lot of money. People go into the crediários, which is what we're talking about, paying in installments. It's just the process of doing that, or the kind of goods that are in that kind of operation. We saw that slide with the changes that people are doing in their lifestyles. It's not that they are not spending money anymore. They found different ways to spend their money because of things that are happening to their daily lives. They spend a lot more time stuck in traffic. What will make their lives better? They suffer a lot more from urban violence. How do you protect yourself? So you spend more time at home to buy things for your home. So you have to look at the psychology of what the Brazilian population is going through. Then you'll see what the opportunities are in terms of products.
I'm Ken Bardak with Fundação Cabral Business School. My understanding is with the C class that you have retailers who are opening specifically targeting that population, like Casa Bahia, et cetera, at the store level. I'm wondering whether the platforms for e-commerce are also gearing in ways that meet the particular needs of that population. Is there segmentation, as you said, Flávia, very correctly, I think, you have to really understand your population and what they're looking for, which is very different by different class structures. So I'm wondering for Class C, whether the infrastructure and the payment systems, et cetera, are geared to that population through e-commerce.
Yeah, you just talked about Casas Bahia, which is a huge retailer. There's also Magazine Luiza, which is enormous as well. In Magazine Luiza, you can talk more about the technicalities of their website, but they have one of the busiest websites in Brazil for online purchasing. And it's not just, it's really interesting, and I've worked with them a lot before, and it's what we were just saying. Of course, they're trying to sell the product, but they're making this very personal. It's a personal experience. Their online platform, actually, it's not just a code platform. There's this little woman who talks to you. It's an animated figure. It's an icon. But she talks to you. Her name is Luisa, of course. And she talks to you. So you're reaching your consumers in a way that they don't feel intimidated by the technology. It makes it so easy for you, like you said, access to the purchase. Just be there with the quiet ones. That's really key. So you know how to talk to these people, you will win them over.
Yeah, I have a question. So we've been talking about probably opportunities. Brazil might be cheaper because it costs, dollars there. Do you see a potential, increase in the number of companies actually setting shop in Brazil to, creating their platforms from Brazil instead of just, coming from the U.S. Basically, commerce, going to Brazil, and perhaps even venture on logistics.
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. For many reasons, right? I mean, which international company, if you're an international company and you want to operate anywhere in Latin America, Brazil's going to be the first place you want to be. It's the sixth largest economy in the world. So, I mean, it's normal that you want to be there. And the current scenario just facilitates that a lot. I'm a product of that. Accenture wanted to come into Brazil in the digital space, they bought us. Because, and then, when you look at the price, that they pay today versus the price of 2 years ago, if you just take in, the exchange rate, they pay 75% cheaper. So yeah, I think this is a great time, and there are a lot of companies setting shop there, not only from a commerce perspective, but in any kind of business, because simply the barrier of entry is, and then when you get through the fact that, because I think that the big misconception is that our crisis is a normal crisis of, just, the economy crisis. When you get away from that and you actually understand that we're in a political crisis that will be resolved, whether you like it or not, in the next 3 years, because it has to, right? We have elections coming up in 3 years. So
Hopefully.
We have to wait.
But so if you think about that, you're setting yourself up for okay. So at worst, we're talking about 3 years. But I mean, and this is all economists guessing. But I think that by the end of next year we'll be better.
So it's a window of opportunity.
Wonderful. Unless there's any other questions.
I do. Can you just talk a little bit about the ease of making that foreign direct investment as a U.S. company trying to go in? And I represent fashion brands and accessory brands, and so obviously there's one of the growth opportunities also there. So if I were looking to make foreign direct investment using my valuable dollars into fashion brands or retailers, actually, more importantly, in Brazil, how easy or difficult is that? Do I need a Brazilian partner? Can you spend a little bit of time on that?
No, you don't need a Brazilian partner, and it's not that difficult. Actually, a lot of people, doing that, like going down to Brazil. You can find like a totally different kinds of business. You can even get a partner there. You can buy a company there. You can sell to Brazil from here, like talking about fashion. I had a meeting yesterday with Brooks Brothers. So there are many opportunities. So I think, as Leo said, it's just a period like we are struggling with the economy now, but for sure something better will come. In maybe 2 or 3 years. So this might be the right time to invest money. With your valuable dollar.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, Brazil is the 6th economy in the world, but we are the 10th biggest e-commerce in the world. Comparing with England, which is the 5th economy in the world, and they are the 6th e-commerce in the world, that means that we have a lot to grow when it comes to e-commerce. So if you are going to be there, if you are going to buy a Brazilian company, if you're going to sell from the United States, I don't know. Even Brazilians are coming here to do business. Like one of our clients is Azoco. They have 4 different brands. They have shoes, which is one of their shoe companies, shoe brand, and they just opened their store here on Fifth Avenue. So I don't think that. I just think that you guys need to understand. I think this is a great opportunity to understand the whole aspect of the whole thing. Because like we hear a lot of things, the price, Brazil's not doing well. That might be a good opportunity, especially for what is happening.
There's also a lot of recent success stories in brands in fast fashion, especially in Brazil. Actually setting up operations down there.
It is not a quick process, though. It is a very lengthy process. Yes. The thing is, you're laughing because you probably have That's the issue. That's the issue. The issue is the big bureaucracy. It takes a long time for you to get all of the paperwork, and sometimes you'll only be able to start operating in 18 months. It takes a while.
Also for the foreign exchange deal.
Yeah. We help a lot of foreign companies to get in Brazil, to have their operation in Brazil. Just to let you know, it takes around like 6 or 8 months to have all the papers there. And then I can say to you as a lawyer that you already have a Brazilian company. But I had the same problem when one of our clients, which is a Brazilian company, they wanted to start their business in France. It took me 9 months to get the same thing. And I was always asking the client, I mean, is it worth it? And he said, yeah, that's the way it is. I mean, nobody told me that it would be easy. People told me that it's a good opportunity. That's a little bit different, you know. So yes, you're going to struggle with the bureaucracy.
Maybe by the time you get the license, you actually have an operation there. The exchange rate might have changed, and you get a better value after invested dollar in the beginning.
Yeah, and also to check all the documents for you to close the deal sometimes can take up to 3 weeks or even a month to get all the documentation done.
Yeah. So our process for M&A took only 3 months. Okay. So from the first meeting I had with Accenture,
M&A is easier, like you
So
want to
the-
buy someone that's already set.
yeah, took 3, and this is Accenture. And you can think about, and it's very, they go into detail very much on everything. So, trust me, they wanted to know blood and.
Well, I suspect we can spend a lot more time also on the exit strategies, also figuring out how it is that we would get those valuable dollars
That's another subject.
That's a whole other subject. Yeah.
Too late now.
I'm curious, do you see any tendency of companies moving into Brazil through Chile? Because you have a very small market, 12 million people, but a very efficient
Oh yeah,
system.
it is.
And you have trade agreements between Chile and Brazil that could give a company advantages.
No. Actually, Chile is really close to the United States, and doing business, especially when we talk about digital economy. We have some clients there. We are also helping getting into the Chilean market. And yeah, you were right. Chile is doing really well when it comes to making things easier, like doing business.
3 days to start a business.
That's it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
amazing.
but the market is really small. So yeah, in Brazil we don't have a really good agreement with Chile when it comes into doing business. So it's not going to help, unfortunately.
Okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention that something else to take advantage of right now with every had difficulties in getting your visa is a visa waiver that you have now from July all the way through the end of September, which is great for those that have either clients or are going themselves. You don't need a visa. There's a waiver, so take advantage of that as well as an opportunity.
This is a waiver for the period during the Olympic Games for whoever wants to travel to Brazil. So you're safe, you have dollars.
That's right.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you, speakers. Okay, thank you, Golin. Thank you for joining and for all your interesting questions. I think this is a hot topic, and this is just the beginning, so thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.